I'm female 33, engaged to my fiancé male 36. I have a preschool daughter and he has a teen daughter. He comes from a conservative family, so we won't move in together till after marriage. So far we're on good terms as a blended family, but I noticed that my stepdaughter acts kind of distant towards my daughter. Whenever I try to talk to my fiancé about it, he'd tell me to give the kids a chance to bond and warm up to each other. My stepdaughter's birthday took place on Sunday. Since she's into baking, she decided to bake cupcakes instead of having an actual birthday cake. My daughter and I went over to my fiancé's house to attend the party, and I brought my stepdaughter a gift, which was an iPhone. We sat down as she started serving everyone cupcakes. Then, when it was my daughter's turn, she said she was sorry but didn't save any for my daughter. I felt confused and asked if she'd made enough cupcakes and whether there were guests that came uninvited. She said no and that she just didn't make one for my daughter. I asked why and she refused to say. I was so mad and felt hurt on my daughter's behalf. I got up and told my fiancé that I wanted to leave. My fiancé tried to stop me and offered his cupcake to my daughter, but I refused to take it. On the way out, I grabbed the gift I brought for my stepdaughter and she stood there and watched. I could hear her yell, "Dad, she took the iPhone," while I walked out with my daughter. My fiancé tried to get me to go back inside, but I refused. Later, he came over and we argued. He said I overreacted and that I know how some teenagers can be moody and do random stuff without an explanation, so I shouldn't have taken it personally. I said she excluded my daughter and didn't save her a cupcake, but he said it was just a cupcake and then reminded me that he offered his cupcake and said I should have accepted it and called it a day. He said taking the iPhone, which was supposed to be a gift back, was in poor taste and it might hurt my relationship with his daughter. I refused to give it to him so he could give it to her since she was crying about it. He left and was mad at me. We haven't talked since then except via texts. Edit. She's been wanting the iPhone for a while, and since her dad couldn't buy it, I decided it'd be nice if I gifted it to her. Also, I saw that she served her girlfriend a whole plate of cupcakes, so it's not like she baked a specific number. Not the idiot. Wow, your stepdaughter-to-be is a mean girl, which is a polite way of saying she's a brat. Brats are cultivated. Your fiancé has allowed this for her entire life and he will not change. Best of luck to you and your daughter dealing with this BS. You sound kind of awesome. You deserve so much better. OP, you paid for an iPhone? Yeah, this isn't about you being an idiot in my opinion. It's not an overreaction when you don't feel like being disrespected and unappreciated. She left a preschooler out on purpose. She knew exactly what she was doing. Play stupid games, kiddo, and win stupid prizes. OP, wake up. Why are you the one paying for the expensive gift? The iPhone should be a parent or grandparent gift, not from you. Leaving was your only option at that point. It takes a special kind of ugly to want to exclude a little kid from a birthday celebration. If your stepdaughter-to-be can verbalize that she intentionally did not make a cupcake for your daughter, she's old enough to understand why you left. The more I think about this, the worse it gets. The stepdaughter being a jerk is one thing, but the fiancé's reaction is unforgivable. I also wouldn't be able to get over his whole family standing by and acting as if a teen bullying a preschooler is no big deal. This man and his entire family showed you who they are. Believe them. OP, you need to put major brakes on this relationship. Keep your finances separate. Consider it a blessing in disguise that you haven't moved in together yet. If you're not ready to break up, you should pull way back on the money you spend on your boyfriend. Are you paying for trips and little luxuries? Take a break for a few months and see how he reacts. Open your eyes. Oh, and I think you should give your daughter the phone. Let her use it to watch Disney movies like Cinderella, maybe with a cupcake phone case. We're both 26. Just for background, I've been telling my husband to rehome the dog for months. He brought the dog home 4 months ago. His mother gifted him the dog behind my back, and I knew for an absolute fact that we were not in a spot financially to care for this animal. He refused, saying he was already attached to the dog and she was too cute to rehome, and he felt like he couldn't rehome the dog due to the amount of money his mother spent on the dog for him, $1,200. He's wanted this dog breed for as long as I've known him. It started getting incredibly frustrating recently because the dog, who's 2 years old, has behavioral and medical issues and we're now in debt. We're almost $200 overdrawn in our bank account due to an unexpected trip to the emergency vet. I told him not to bring her and that she was fine. He brought her anyways. So, $650 later, and overdrafting our account, the vet told him the dog was just high. My husband's buddy was over and smoking in front of the dog, so she was stoned. So he overdrafted our account, knowing that neither of us gets paid until next week to ensure his dog was okay. We have no food in the house and now have no money for gas to get to work. My boss was lenient enough to let me work from home, but my husband had to be in the office. His boss knows we're struggling and is super generous and bought me and my husband food today. They came to drop it off with me at noon. It would be an understatement if I told you I was drooling thinking about eating for the first time in 2 days. Just note that the dog has plenty of food. So they bring the food over, come inside and put it on the table. I went to hug my husband and his boss, saying thank you, and that dog got up on my table, knocked the food down and wolfed it down in 0.2 seconds flat. I immediately started crying and telling him to get the dog out of here, and I was done. Oddly enough, his boss is on my side, not only because of the money but because he knows I'm spiraling from the stress of this. On the other hand, my husband tells me I'm being overdramatic and not thinking clearly because I'm hungry. He says not only am I incredibly selfish and inconsiderate, but he won't rehome her. Am I the idiot? If this is true, and I really hope it isn't because I can feel my hope in humanity dwindle, then I know how to ease your financial burden. Lose the freaking husband. Girl, you've gone hungry for 2 days and he doesn't care. He lets you starve while proudly watching as his dog jumps on the table and eats your food. My God, this is just mental. Why are you hesitating? You deserve someone who loves you and cares about you, not the idiot. Geez, that shouldn't even need to be said. It's a mother-in-law son team who does not respect you, probably stomp all over your boundaries, so I assume you haven't been truly happy in a long time. You need to be free from all this nonsense. Rehome the dog and the hubby. You haven't eaten in 2 days and he doesn't care. That shows you how low you are on his priority list. Also, he has no money for food, but he can still afford to smoke. Sorry, but no dog is worth going into debt over, going hungry, or not being able to work because he can't pay for gas to get to work. If I were your husband, I would be mortified that my boss dropped by to bring me food. The dog is threatening your livelihood since there's no money for gas. You'd lose your jobs if you didn't have such nice bosses. Honestly though, it's time to ask yourself, are you sure you're not the one who needs to just walk away? I'm very frustrated as I write this. I've been with my wife for 15 years. We're both 33 years old and have 2 wonderful children, both very young. We're professionals in our community and earn good wages, but like many people, money is often tighter than I would like. When we had our first child, my wife decided to take a part-time job at her workplace. We had extensive conversations but agreed that the 2 days off a week would be beneficial for getting things done we otherwise would struggle with. We both work 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. With both of our children, she has taken 18 months maternity leave, and we're nearing the end of her last leave. As such, money is especially tight, and some things have fallen off, like household tasks, because having 2 kids is a lifestyle change. We both agreed that it would be great for her to return to work part-time, but we argued today. Today, she told me that she volunteered for the PTA starting in January, when she returns to work, so she can go to my son's school on her off days. This was a bit triggering for me because I feel that the days off are for her to complete the tasks that we often don't have time for. So I told her that much, and I felt that I was very polite in what I said. I did reference household chores like laundry, dishes, vacuuming and whatnot. Again, it was not to be misogynistic, but our family does happen to follow the stereotypical archaic family structure, where we have a partially stay-at-home mom and me working full-time, plus overtime occasionally. The climax of this argument was my wife getting irate and telling me that I couldn't tell her what she could do on her days off. I reminded her that these were not days off, but rather an agreement where she works part-time but gets our family tasks done. She feels I'm overbearing and doesn't want to sign up for that, but she doesn't want to return to work full-time either. I'm not trying to be rude or ignorant, but I'm frustrated. I feel that if she wants to volunteer at my son's school and make a commitment, she should be taking extra shifts and making more money for the family. Also, if she's going to stay part-time, she needs to accept that family responsibility comes first. Am I being an idiot? I feel she's selfish by wanting full control over her days off while not working full-time. I don't know if I'm right or wrong here, and I'm struggling to understand her perspective. Edit. I didn't use PTA properly. It was volunteering throughout the week at the school that was frustrating. Roughly 4 hours a day on her days off. She works Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. She has Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday off. You are the idiot. Kids don't raise themselves. Your wife is getting involved with their schooling and the parenting community. That doesn't exactly sound like a fun hobby or day out. She doesn't have bottomless mimosas during this time. This is work. You absolutely do not get Stella what to do with her time off. I suggest you hire a cleaner that you both pay for. Or, the dude has 2 days off, so maybe he could clean and do laundry on Saturday and Sunday like every other working family out there. You are the idiot because family tasks are family tasks, not wife tasks, and volunteering at school is work, not leisure, and it's good for your children's development. For example, you could have done a load of dishes in the time it took you to write this. Listen, your kids are small. One day they will be grown. Do you think they'll remember whether the floor was vacuumed and the windows were washed? Or do you think they'll remember that their mom was there for them? Some of my best times were volunteering at my kids' schools, and they'd tell you the same. Don't take that away from your wife and kids. If you can, try to carve more time for yourself to be there for them too. You won't regret it even if the baseboards are dirty. They'll just remember that you showed up. My grandmother recently passed away and I was the sole benefactor of her will. She wasn't a rich woman, but she was comfortable enough and she left me her house, car and savings. My father is her only child, but he'd made it clear early on when the will was being written up that he didn't want anything from her will and to give it to me, which he did. I have an older brother who I haven't seen in 5 years. The family disowned him for the crap he did, which included stealing from various members of the family and other stuff. He and his then girlfriend had a toddler son when I last saw them, but honestly they had no interest in him being around our family in the first place and would often use him as a bartering chip against my parents. His girlfriend, who is his ex, apparently now reached out to me on social media the day after the funeral and was all sweet and called me babes, which we're not friends. To sum up, she asked when the will was being read so she could come. I asked her why she'd be coming and she said to find out her son's share of the inheritance. I was beyond shocked at the audacity of this witch and I told her as much, stating there was nothing in the will for him and it had already been read to get the funeral plan she'd set out in it. She was angry at this and demanded to know why he'd not been included in the will and asked who'd gotten the things in the will. I pointed out how she'd not acted like family and that my brother had been disowned, so really, how could she think he'd be in the will? I also told her that I'd gotten most of the stuff, which was a mistake on my part, but whatever. She began to demand I split it with him, stating that the nice house was much too big for a single 21-year-old girl, and how I didn't need it as much as her, as she had a child to take care of, and how I was being selfish and should sign it over to her, or that I should give her a cut of the money for my nephew's future, and that it was my responsibility as his aunt. I told her no and to not contact me again. I've heard she's talking on social media about how I've stolen her son's future and food from his mouth and a roof from over his head. I won't lie, it's stressing me and I'm starting to feel guilty. I don't care about her, she can go curl up in a gutter for all I care for what she put my parents through years ago, but I feel guilty for my nephew. He's only a kid and none of this is his fault, but I have doubts on if anything I give her for him would really trickle down to him. So, am I the idiot? Good God, the sense of entitlement in that one. You don't need a house because of your age, and you don't have kids. She needs to kick rocks. You are not the idiot. You need to ignore all texts. Don't answer anything, even if they accuse you of doing horrible things. Block from Facebook and maybe even take a hiatus from it. If they aren't in the will, there's nothing else. If they found out when the will is read, they'll do whatever they can to delay or cause problems. Get cameras and a security system on that house if there isn't one already. Tell her that she's right. She does have a child to take care of. The operative word here is she. You don't have a child to care for, and her child is not your responsibility. However, if you wanted to do something nice for him, you could set up a trust in his name that only he will have access to when he's 18, but it's up to you. Unfortunately, sometimes the sins of the father do affect the son. Sort of, but if OP's grandmother had wanted to do that, then she could have set that up in her will, and she didn't. Someone's will is exactly that. Their will, wishes and choices, just written down for when they're not around to express them in person. And the obvious thing to do with someone's choices is to respect them. So there's an interesting question here about who should inherit, but OP's grandmother already answered it. I'm not a big eater. I like going out with friends and enjoying a reasonable meal with a beer or two. My friends go nuts. They order $100 meals and appetizers with different sides. When the bill comes, they always just say to split it evenly. So I end up paying 3 times my meal cost and they each save a few dollars. We can all afford this, no one is going broke from these meals, but I don't think it's fair. I've mentioned a few times that we should get separate bills, but they never agree. The last time we went out, I was meeting my girlfriend afterward for a movie. She's not the biggest fan of my friends, so she didn't join us, but I knew I had a ride home. I noticed that our restaurant had a really interesting cocktail menu. So, as I enjoyed my burger and fries, I enjoyed a few drinks. When the bill came, my total was about $250, which is about $200 more than I usually top out at. We split the bill, but they were all giving me a side eye. One of them texted me and said I was an idiot for padding the bill like that, and if I did it again, he would insist that we have individual bills. I texted everyone and asked if they felt the same. They did, so I apologized and agreed that when we went out, I would pay my own bill. My girlfriend thinks I'm right in proving my point, but I'm still feeling resentment from my friends. That's so funny. If you do that, we'll do what you asked before and get separate bills. Not the idiot, and well played. It was fine until you turned the tables. They knew what they were doing, and for the life of me, I don't know why you would be friends with people like that. Yeah, OP needs to lose these friends. They took advantage of you, didn't listen when you made a point of paying your own bills, and now they're forcing you to stop, or they'll separate the bills individually. Sounds like they were using you to get cheaper meals. Sounds like the girlfriend is a pretty good judge of character. OP's cheekiness is deliciously well played. I loathe bill-splitting shenanigans with folks who knowingly order extravagant meals or pricey drinks while expecting others to help foot the costs. Honestly, I wouldn't be friends with these users.